Okay, we'll call this meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I can't go in here. Waiting.
Okay. Okay, so first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting May 14th. Everyone's had a chance to review them. Does anybody have anything that we need to take a look at? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been properly moved and double seconded to approve the minutes of the board meeting May 14th, 2018. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. And then we'll move on to the general fund vouchers, 75,692 through 75,829, voiding 75,717 and 75,765. Wire transfers 17180,516 through 17180,594, and activity fund vouchers 9252 through 9284. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers as read. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. And then we'll move on to our public comment section. Does anybody have anything they want to share? All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to the Spotlight on Education, the second grade presentation on symbiotic relationship.
Okay, so Mrs. Anderson, one of our second grade teachers, has graciously come in and is going to be doing a presentation on symbiotic relationship, but the presentation is, the focus is technology. The kids use some iPads, and then she had an Apple TV in her room that they used as well. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Anderson.
All right, thank you. First of all, I'll say it was definitely a team approach. Mrs. Meyer in the library helped with some initial research. This was one of our inquiry projects towards the end of the year. Once we got the one-to-one devices in the classroom, it just opened up a whole new world of possibilities for us. To do a project like this previously would have been a lot of checking schedules and making sure other classes didn't need the iPads and just a lot of that. So first of all, we're just very thankful that we have that technology literally in our classroom at our fingertips. So Mrs. Meyer and I did some research with the kiddos, and then we needed to head to Mr. Osmond to help with some of the tech. So what the kids did is initially in our reading series, we talked about how animals work together. That's called symbiosis. So the kids chose two animals out of a hat and then found their partner of the two animals that work together. Then they researched, put together a presentation, and then we used an app called Chatter Kid, and they told some of their information based on this app. And that was great. And that's kind of as far as we could take it, but we wanted to present it to some other classrooms, and that's where we got Mr. Osmond involved. This handy little device right here is an Apple TV. It just sat on my desk, and he'll have all the tech stuff about it. But it makes it so we can all see it, and we don't have to hold up our iPad and have the whole class try to hear our presentation just from a little screen. It's all going to happen up here. So why don't you help me kind of get this going? And I will just show two of the kiddos' projects. One of the gals was going to try to make it tonight, but it is not working. Am I just clicking here? And then, okay. So one of the symbiotic relationships is a hippopotamus and an egret. And hopefully the sound will work. All right, Mr. Osmond is giving me the go-ahead.
Hi, I'm a hippo. I see but the leg is huge, both arms divided.
Should I play it one more time? It's not really kind of flowing quite yet. It's a little smoother.
Hi, I'm a hippo. I see the egret, but the leg is huge, both arms divided.
Okay. And then from my teacher iPad that I have, I can see all of the kiddos' iPad screens, and I can click on what's happening, and I can this was a handy device, not with this project per se, but if I'm working with a small group and I have this and they're supposed to be doing a reading program, EPIC, or doing some sort of thing on our Reach for Reading series, I can just glance and see what their screen is on, and it's just a trust issue. I had no issues with it, but it's just kind of fun to see, okay, what are they working on at that moment when I cannot be physically with them. So then here is the other little gal, the egret then, and I will bring hers up.
Hi, I'm Egret. I have the hippo by eating pieces of his body.
So obviously it was kind of a fun thing for the kids to do. It wasn't just your typical science and reading presentation. It really kind of took it up that next level, and they just went wild with it. They absolutely loved it. So I just want to thank, on behalf of the staff and the students, just thank you for investing in the tech that you have. And these Apple TV devices are just, I mean, amazing, that we can really, as a classroom, view what is going on in everyone's project. So.
And if you don't mind me interjecting, but Mrs. Anderson invited myself and Mr. Peterson in. It was, each kid had their iPad sitting at their desk, and it was really neat to see the interactive process. I mean, it was very cute because it's, if you can't tell, it's their voices, and some of them were being very goofy with their voices appropriately, trying to act like their animal. But it was also, like, as you were talking to them, they clearly understood what a symbiotic relationship was, and it was really a fun project for them with technology integrated within the project. So it was a neat for the kids, and then also neat to see Mrs. Anderson starting to explore the projects with the one-to-one device. So it was very encouraging for my role to see all the kids, and each kid, each student not only learned about their animal, but then they learned about the relationship, whoever their partner was with the symbiotic relationship animal, and they would talk about their own animal, and then they got to learn about the other animals as well. So it was a very acute project, but a very informative one too, and the kids seemed to really enjoy it and be very involved and really took to the iPads.
So, and tonight Mr. Osmond is here. If you have any questions regarding any of the technology side of things, he can field those.
What did we do? Third grade and below had the iPads, and then
Second and below,
Second
and then
below.
Chromebooks up above. So at the elementary, we're full implementation. We were thinking it was going to be next fall, but it just ended up kind of working out that everything got purchased, and all of the iPads and Chromebooks are one-to-one in the building, meaning that they have kind of the checkout, not take-home one-to-one. Next fall, this coming fall, it's going to be full one-to-one in this building with checkout process and carts in classrooms up to in 8th grade, and then 9th through 12th are going to be the take-home. And then Ms. Anderson talked briefly about the Apple TV, the little box there. We purchased one of those just to kind of experiment with that, just to see how it would function in the classroom, and that seemed to be very successful. And then we're going to try the Chromecast too, which are specific to the Chromebooks, and try those in a couple classrooms as we continue implementing the
we've had one of
technology.
those for a couple of years. They work nice.
What's that?
We've had one of those for a couple.
Yeah,
So
it
you can
really
just
is
go
slick.
on someone's phone and here's a picture.
And it was neat to see too the capability of Mrs. Anderson's, and again, Mr. Osmond would be able to speak to it better than I can, but the capability to know, to kind of lock down the students so they're, on whatever app or website that we want them to be on, so they don't get sidetracked with games or whatnot. But they were all on the that particular app during that lesson.
Well, they never do that.
Not in Clear Lake, but some districts it happens.
All right,
That's creative, thank you.
thank you.
Ms. Anderson, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So, Bo, I got a question about the technology part. Now that we've got all these devices out, how has that changed your workload?
A lot more repairs, that's for sure.
Are there?
The Chromebooks, especially the iPads, we have these Brent Haven cases on them. They seem to protect them pretty good. But the Chromebooks, the case is more expensive than the warranty, so it's just, we have, I think, we're up to 10 checkout ones now at the elementary, so when one's out getting fixed, I just give them a temporary one. It's busy, but it's good. It's good. I think, the Apple TV is good, but it's the combination of everything. An iPad is nice to have, but when you add the Apple TV with the projector, and then the teacher pieces we have on the teacher iPads, what they call Apple Classroom, which is a free service. All we have to do is hook it up to our Skyward account, and that's what allows the teacher to then see, and we assign the iPads. I just do that in the backside, but that's what allows them to, they can open apps, they can lock the iPad to force all the kids' attention up front. It's not just for monitoring, it's for a lot of good stuff. And that's what allows the students to stay in the desk, and then Mrs. Anderson, as the teacher, as she's wandering around, she can then throw the iPad screen up on the projector so all the students, but she can still be meandering around and stuff like that.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, we used it because we just got the iPads this spring. We used this for a presentation, but I could see using it as classroom instruction, where my iPad is showing, but they all have theirs, and I can pop somebody else's iPad up on the screen and they can show what they're working on, and more of an interactive way to do our classroom instruction as well.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, have a good night. All right, then we'll move on to our new business, item A, approval of laser engraver purchase.
Okay, so we brought in, during our last meeting, made a look at the loaner laser engraver that we had. We're ready to move forward with that, so this is a request to purchase the laser engraver. I gave you the quote in there, what it's listed at, and then approval of transferring monies from the transportation or maintenance areas into the technology area, because this wasn't initially budgeted for. But we have some flexibility with those two accounts, and I think this would be an appropriate time now to transfer some of that money to the technology so that we can purchase a laser engraver to have it up and running in the fall. For those of you that weren't part of some of our Fab Lab conversations, we've been applying for a Fab Lab grant. We've not received that grant yet, but we're going to continue applying for it. And last year, we talked, I talked with Mr. Gillis and then Mr. Neil Larson in the technology department, as far with the thought that we'd continue applying for the Fab Lab grant. And if we didn't receive it, we kind of slowly start purchasing things to upgrade that room kind of into the 21st century curriculum. So last year we purchased a screen printing machine, which you guys saw down there, and then my hope would be that we purchase a laser engraver for the fall. We have the mugs for you guys. Not bribery or anything, but we just thought you'd like a mug. But the kids have been exploring. It's really been fun to see some of the stuff that you guys got to see down there. We did the retirement plaques this year. Obviously didn't save us the amount of money that it takes to purchase the laser engraver, but it will take a lot of costs away when we start doing things in-house. But more importantly, it's really going to build on the employability skills class that we offer, both our reg ed and special ed staff. And you could just see the excitement down there. And obviously you do have the novelty of a brand new piece of equipment, but the kids really got into, and they just scratched the surface, no pun intended, on what you can do, with the laser engraver. So it's fun to see.
Do we know why we've never gotten the Fab Lab grant? Do they give feedback?
Yeah, no, we don't. We called them and asked them and they gave us some feedback, but it wasn't anything, that we really could change a whole lot in our grant writing process. The first round we just we just rushed it because we didn't have the time. We had like a month to try to get it done, so Mr. Larson just kind of whipped it out. The second time we called, asked for some guidance on it. They've changed the amount of funding that they've given, so they don't have as much. And they didn't give us a whole lot of feedback, but they did give us some little things that we tweaked and we thought we were hopeful, but we didn't get it. We're gonna try it again this year and see what happens.
Where does that leave us for the bus? I mean, is that gonna take the transportation way down? I mean, we talked about splitting the bus between this year and next year, or
Yep, we
maybe
won't-
this year, or.
We won't need to do that. We're going to purchase a full bus this year on this budget. We had a lot of Title money, to be honest. We had Title I, more Title I money. We had Title IV money. We had the SSR, the Small Rural School Grant that we applied for. That was about $25,000. So we've had some. Yeah, we've had kind of a good problem, but you know, for me trying to figure out where it goes and working with Lori, it's been a little bit tricky, but that's kind of the reasoning behind it. That it is we're gonna that we have the money to purchase it.
Well, that's easy then. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the laser engraver purchase.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the laser engraver purchase. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And we'll move on to the approval of the 2018-19 administration contracts.
Okay, so if you remember last meeting, we approved the teacher contracts and the support staff contracts. This one is just the 2018-2019 administrative contracts with the knowledge, same as the teacher and support staff, that the increase or adjustment to the compensation will be next fall once all of the numbers come in. So this is just approval that the three of us have contracts coming into the fall.
I'll move to approve the 2018-19 administration contracts.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the 2018-19 administration contracts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And then we'll move on to item C, discussion of school board goals.
Okay, so as we discussed at the April 16th board retreat, one of the topics was brought up for board goals. We talked a little about the possibility of short-term goals, long-term goals. So just put it back on the agenda. You guys wanted to discuss some of the things that we talked about. The board would develop an orientation packet for all new school board members by such and such date. We talked about attracting and retaining staff members. Then we also talked about looking into that after all the policy work has been completed. And I shared a little bit about some of the things that we're already doing in the district to try to help out with that, as far as, you know, the culture committee that we've created, exploring options with personal and sick leave. Hope to do that next year. Talked about just the bringing all staff together, both buildings. I feel like we've made a lot of small changes that potentially could make some big differences. Some of the raffling off during the staff appreciation has gotten some really good feedback. Last year we handed out, gave everybody kind of a water bottle, which I know is small, but it was expressed that it was appreciated. Some other goals that we talked about: board will identify what data will be looked at in order to be kind of a data-driven district. We talked about developing a district-wide vision. That's kind of where we left it.
I'm glad you took notes, Josh, because I can't find mine.
And he's really got a good thing in front of here. This is that.
Oh yeah.
You emailed it to everyone too. Yeah. So you just pretty much said all them. So.
Oh yeah. Well, where do we want to start on the conversation? Do you guys want to see it? It might not mean anything to you, but it was it was the exercise that identified and helped us prioritize
Where we want to head. And
Yeah, I think we should do another retreat type thing. I guess that's my opinion.
Was there any homework that we needed to do beforehand that we talked about with him? I remember but I don't remember
Just
what they were.
yeah,
Just
like
working
a
on
vision.
these. Yeah.
What everyone's opinion of that was, I guess, was the biggest thing, wasn't it?
Right.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Well, he did have a little PowerPoint and stuff that we could get to you guys too. That would just kind of what we went
You
through.
shared that.
Yeah.
I remember reviewing it.
Okay.
I think it's setting a time frame, and I think you have later in the meeting going from one meeting or 2 meetings to one.
Right.
Maybe we take
One of the
some
other
of
ones
our
later.
second meetings that we were planning on and working on this.
Sure.
Yeah, because we were gonna maybe meet. We weren't necessarily gonna meet with him again, or we
Not
weren't.
for a bit, yeah.
Right. Or he didn't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I think once we determine some vision or some simple goals, he might be able to help us figure out what data will help us figure out
Right.
how we benchmark that or make those things happen.
And then you can go to him later on that and just ask his opinion on that then?
Right.
Or
Josh,
actually
you have
ask him to help us
this?
through it, I suppose.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
Either way.
I thought he said something was coming up, but I've not seen anything. Did he say something through WASB was gonna do something that would work right into
This
where
fall.
we, this fall,
This
I
fall
think.
it was,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I don't know if that's been announced.
Yeah,
or
that's
not.
right.
Josh, do you have certain data points that's already available? Like metrics that you already have?
As far as what we,
Just what you currently measure?
yeah, I mean,
You know, like student drop rates, pass percentages.
yeah, we do. At the elementary we use, they call them data day. Is that what we call it? Data days? Data days. And that's more specific to like placement of kids and part of the RTI structure. Then Mr. Peterson, Mr. Gillis, and I started going through kind of a workshop with CISA, looking at the Wise Dash website with all of that data in it. Unfortunately, that gal left, and then that stopped. But both buildings do use data. The elementary building probably uses more, just because there's more available at that level, and it's easily accessible. More easily accessible. Yeah, I mean I do think that's kind of a beast of a goal. I think that one should probably be a little bit more long term. I'd like to get through all of our. I'd like policy as kind of one of the main goals for you guys, so that we can kind of stay focused on that policy, so we don't jump into something else before we get all that done. Because the policy process it's huge.
It's actually the foundation before you can jump off into any of the rest of this.
And I'm meeting with Neola again in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of the policy work done this summer, as far as kind of first round of everything, and then it'll start going to the board level, for you guys to kind of work through, like we started with the bylaws. If we could, kind of focus maybe on the district-wide kind of vision statement, like we talked about in the retreat, and then the board policies. If we kind of, those two, I think would be the main things.
I think that's kind of the starting point.
Sounds good to me.
In the past, our orientation packet used to be a copy of our policy, the board policy. Would that be relevant to hand that out? And I'm thinking for you guys, to try to get you guys up to speed.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if that would even be relevant
With all the changes.
with the changes that are coming.
Oh, you mean the current board policy? I think so. I think probably both. And as we work through, the other stuff, everyone's going to be on the same page as far as there's a lot of there's going to be a lot of new policies and a lot of changes within the policy. So all 5 of you guys are going to be on the exact same page with that.
Then I'll email the policies to you guys then here shortly. And the packet part that I was orientated with was I think it was the 100 series. It's a pretty short series, and it's just our board stuff, and it's not that entailed, but that's all I had when we started, or when I started. Do you guys need anything more, do you feel?
Time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then as far as the vision is concerned, how do we want to address that? Should we put some thought into it and put it back on the agenda the next time we meet and
Right,
throw
and
some out.
I like the idea if we move later to just once a month official meeting, let's pick a fourth Monday or something that we could just get together and just talk about that. Or a time, I don't care.
Yeah.
Where we could just really because it's not, he said it's not a big, long thing, it's pretty concise.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to be. So yeah, let's just roll that one forward.
Okay, does anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay, Josh, thanks for your insightfulness. All right, then we'll move on to our approval of kinship donation.
So the kinship program, you see in your packet, I have the two kind of explanation of the program, and then there's the third page of it has some pictures. It's a program that's through Polk County. It's a mentoringship kind of program. The high school kids mentor some of our identified students, specifically identified students at the elementary, and they provide kind of teaching with the high school kids on how to be a mentor. They give them ideas on what to do in the classroom, and it's really relationship focused. They do a really nice job. Both the high school kids and the elementary kids really get a lot out of it. The high school kids do a heck of a job mentoring the elementary age students. The kinship they have two staff that come into the building and provide some guidance to the high school kids, and I think they meet with the whole group as well. They're 100%. It's no charge to the district, and I met with the kinship program. All the districts, I think, except one or maybe two, and I think we're one of the two, do not donate to the program. So this one's just a proposal to donate $1,000 to help fund the program, so it continues within the district.
And again, Josh, we have the funds
We do,
to be
yeah.
able to do this.
So this is just high school kids mentoring elementary kids?
Mentoring our own elementary kids, yep. So
When I looked at it, I thought it was like adults. I'm like, I don't know where the adults come in.
There's two parts of kinship, because there's the outside of school kinship that is adults mentoring
Okay.
kids.
Yep.
Okay.
And this is the in school. There's two
I
different
see.
sides of it. Yep.
So that's what I was-
And you'll see both, like in the newspaper and stuff.
So I wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
in my mind. Okay.
And the program's been effective for the elementary school. Have you seen?
I feel so. Yeah. And again, I don't know that we're measuring any data to measure
No.
effectiveness, but I think by the observation and just the what's the word I'm searching for? Data. It's a very positive program. There were a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, we had a few concerns or questions, and we talked to the leaders about it, and they've addressed those, and it's working really smooth. And they were really more logistical kind of things that we fixed, and I think it's going smoother. And,
Even my kids being, kindergarten, first grade, the third or fourth graders. I mean, that's all they talk about when they come home.
Buddy.
time.
Well, I figured
Yeah.
it had to be going well because my daughter asked how you get a kinship buddy, and I'm like, I think you need a different set of home life.
Yeah.
it's kind of our version of the Big Brother Big Sister
Yeah.
program that
Sure.
the Y's.
You're getting really solid high schoolers then.
Well, that's the thing too, is so there's a screening process. The high school kids have to apply, they have to interview, to become a mentor. And then the process for selecting mentees is staff and counselors kind of make recommendations to the program.
So there's an actual matching process to
Yep.
the high schooler.
Yep,
Okay.
and the kinship staff does that. So the school staff doesn't do that. I mean, they have input, counselors have input, but that's what the kinship staff actually comes in and does, is they do the work of identifying the mentors and matching the mentors and doing some of that. So that it's a nice service that they do.
And their relationship continues. We went to a wedding this weekend where the high schooler, when he was in high school's mentor person, was in their wedding this last weekend. And we've been able to watch that relationship grow, and that friendship has stayed strong, even though now the high schooler's gone. But it was just it was amazing to see that relationship continue. And so I think it's an incredible program, and I think the high schoolers are doing a fantastic job. And then they stay connected with them even after they leave. And it's just a great resource. Who doesn't need a big brother or something? So
We got some great kids currently last week. And then, like Mr. Rich said too, the high school kids benefit from it so much too. They just learn so many leadership skills, and it's eye-opening for them to work with some of these kids and to realize what an impact they're making on them.
They've got quite the resume experience before even graduating high school.
So $2,000 they're looking for?
1,000 is what I'm proposing.
I move to approve the kinship donation of $1,000.
the letter says 2,000. Are we able to do that? Or is there?
Yeah, so I met with her and just said, we kind of talked it through, we haven't donated in the past. So they came in, we talked it through as far as kind of what most districts do. I felt like 1,000 was right around kind of our size and appropriate for our building.
Okay.
That's kind of how I got that number.
I'll second it.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve $1,000 for the kinship program donation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Now move on to the approval of staff resignation.
Okay, so we have 2 staff that have submitted their formal letters of resignation. Jill Moles, who's a 50% music teacher at the elementary building, just moving into the private sector for a job opportunity. And Christy Rosine, who was communicated, initially was hired as just kind of helping out and filling in, kind of helping us out. And she had communicated to me a while ago that she was looking to resign and move over to her other part-time position to be full-time over there, and wanted to wait until Mr. Hansen was leaving and the transition went smoothly. So she helped us out. So both are leaving on good terms, and I'd like to thank them for their time in the Clear Lake District.
I'll move to approve the staff resignation.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the staff resignations of Christy Rosine and Jill Moles. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Then we'll move on to the approval of a staff hire.
Okay. We have to table this one. Unfortunately, we don't have anyone to hire at this moment.
Okay. So the next item of business then will be the review of AGR Sage end of the year report.
Okay, so if you were paging through and looking at the resignation letters, you go right behind those. So it's quite a ways back behind all. I don't think a lot about this month or this meeting. The way toward the back, it looks like this. A chart in there looks like this.
Yep, that's it.
It's just right after this.
Oh, wait. Yours might have been in front on accident. Yeah, sorry about that.
That looks like me.
I'm different.
So, I was going to say you're familiar with this, but we have 2 new members. So, some of you have heard of SAGE over the years. It's now called AGR, but SAGE was a Student Achievement Guarantee in Education that's been a program around since the 1990s, which was a Wisconsin program that meant at reducing class sizes. So, how we have the 18-to-1 ratio in our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd and 3rd grades. A few years ago, it was revamped a little bit. They added some flexibility to it and renamed it the AGR program, Achievement Gap Reduction. So part of that change is now that at the end of each, so we submit a plan to the state and say this is our AGR plan. Which strategy are we using? Are we using class size reduction? Are we using one-to-one tutors, or are we using coaching, staff coaching? We're continuing to use this class size reduction so that to maintain those small class sizes that we've come to know and love here in Clear Lake over the last 20 years, 25, 30 years. So we submit our plan to the state, it got approved, and then it's a 5-year contract, so to speak, or a 5-year plan. And then just the requirement is that at the end of each semester, we are supposed to give a report to our local board on how we're doing on our goals. So our goals are included in there, and then we just have to report to you. And it's not necessarily that there's no funding or anything contingent on meeting the goals. It's just simply stating, how are we doing. So the goals stay the same over the period of 5 years. So the first couple pages is just a recap of our contract and what our goals are. So for kindergarten, we got reading and math goals, and first grade reading and math goals, second and third, and so on. So basically, that we are using our data point of our STAR test, which is that online test that the kids take 3 times a year, fall, winter, spring, and they take it more often, sometimes in between. And basically, our goal is that 80% of our students would be at benchmark or higher, and 80% was used because that's just with best practice with response to intervention with RTI. 80% is kind of what you want your universal instruction to have your kids be hitting, to hit benchmark at. So our goal is 80%. So if you get to the last page of the report is the actual numbers. And so you can see we did fall, winter, and spring. So in January or early February, I shared with you all the winter January data. And then now I'm reporting to you in May, the kids were assessed again, and then I have the numbers in there for that. So again, that's what percentage of kids are at benchmark or above.
So am I reading this right, that our second and our third graders are behind?
Our second and third graders did not meet the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. In reading.
In reading, but it looks like
Yeah.
math is.
And then now, I realized I made a mistake too. So there's a correction I'm going to tell you all. So under the math data, and it's really not, for a couple of them, it's not much of a correction. Go back down here. Oh, there it is. So I just realized when I put the numbers in here, and Mr. Ernst, so I just realized this as I was looking at my screen here. I was looking at a historical document from last year and this year. When I typed in the math, I made a mistake in first, second, and third grade. I typed in last year's numbers.
For the 17,
Yeah.
18?
Yeah, so here are the corrected numbers for first grade. If you go across to the right-hand column,
Yep.
it should be not 86, but it should be 88. And then for second grade, the corrected number should not be 84, it should be 81. So those two are, really not statistically significant at all. And then for third grade, instead of 85, it should be 71.
So that does make a difference.
So that one does make a difference. So
Kindergarten was the same.
So I apologize. I just realized that as I pulled it up on my computer and I looked at it and said, wait a minute, this doesn't match. And then I figured out what I had done. So I apologize for the mistake. So from looking from left to right, so what that means, so like for example, well, take any one of the numbers. So the benchmark in the fall is different than what benchmark means in the spring. So it might say the same percentage, but that doesn't mean that they still learned and grew, but they just didn't meet. So what is the benchmark in the fall is here, in the winter benchmark is here, and in the spring benchmark is here. So built into that system is expected to be growth. And so even though it may say 71 in the fall and 71 in the spring, a 71 in the spring is still, there was still growth and improvement, but it didn't meet our goal.
So is there then like a correction plan that goes into place because we're not meeting these goals? Or are we setting separate initiatives to try to move this group
Yeah,
up?
so that's what we do. Mr. Ernst mentioned we had quarterly data meetings. So at the end of each quarter, we meet as a grade level team and we look at this stuff. And we look at a lot more than this. So we look at their STAR scores, we look at their classroom performance just on their classroom assignments and assessments. And then sometimes we look at their state test data, although that's been in such flux and change that it's kind of no point looking at it the last 3 years. So yeah, and that's what we talk about, that's what we do. Some of the things that some of you are familiar with the work we've been doing on our standards work, that's been our big initiative with our in-service time with our staff, is prioritizing our learning standards and mapping our learning standards.
Purchasing new curriculum, not that
Looking
that's
at-
the cure all, but we've made some big decisions in the last year and a half that I think will hopefully eventually, we'll see the fruit of as far as the kids, making growth. With the last year with the purchase of the new curriculum, and then also just really the curriculum work, just going off kind of best practices for teaching, bringing in Chris Stratton from CISA. We're doing that again next year. So hopefully, continuing that work will improve all scores across the board as our whole.
Is there a point where you'd look at maybe class size reduction is not the strategy to get this?
Everything, yeah, I mean, you always look at everything, you know,
Okay.
look at everything. I think that the biggest thing is looking at is working with our staff to keep working with our teachers towards making sure that they're all using, you know, working towards all best practices and being on the cutting edge of what they're doing instructionally. And then we did it, you know, we're using a new reading curriculum this year. So that's been a transition, you know, staff figuring it out. Returns have been very positive in terms of what they see and as liking in terms of the quality of the materials and the engagement of the kids. We feel like it's been an improvement over the one we were using.
Okay.
But yeah, the reading scores are stubborn and they're not, you know, I'd love to see them moving more than they are. So that's our focus.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there like a different curriculum for like the third graders or this test where the younger grades, once we got a couple years down the road, we'd see it full circle, or am I thinking of something else? Is that the
I think
testing?
that's the state testing
Okay.
you're talking
State
about.
testing, maybe? I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
because like the top, if it was a 5th or 6th grade or something, was a little below the rest just because, I don't remember what you guys
Well,
said. but-
didn't we kind of jump, we're trying to jump somewhere in
standards.
there, we're trying to jump the kids to know the previous, you know what I mean? Isn't that going on in here somewhere, Chris?
I mean, I think in the last 5+ years has been, you know, the standards changed. You know,
Yeah.
the standards changed, and we're going through growing pains. The rigor definitely increased, and so the kids are trying to catch up. Basically, the new standards that came out several years ago, the Common Core standards, and they're Wisconsin state standards is what they are. But that's what we're working on with our in-service time is boring through those, breaking them down, unpacking them, they call it, and really identifying what districts are finding is that there's so many standards that it's impossible to teach them all, especially like English language arts. So the process of, that's what Chris Stratton's been leading us through, is prioritizing what are the power standards, what are the most important ones that carry through, that are the need, you know, that we must focus on, every kid must master, versus the ones that are nice to know. So we're going through that process right now.
Thank you.
So when we start a new year, Chris, do the kids kind of forget about half of what they learned and then they have to start back over again and work back towards getting above 80% or no?
No, it's, I mean, there's, well, summer loss that you do concern yourself with our system in the U.S. But it's, again, it's, you know, so where they left off, what 80% of, what being at benchmark, I should say, at the end of, say, 2nd grade, when they start 3rd grade, it's still a little different set of expectations. So the bar is also rising as they're taking these assessments. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I just see that we have a lot of low scores in the fall, and we work towards most of them being above our standard.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if next spring again, are we going to be behind again and then have to work the numbers up?
Yeah, and again, I think, you know, you want your goal. If they all came in at 80 or more, you'd be saying, okay, what do we? What's the
pushing
level?
them
Right? You know, if they all came in mastering 3rd grade in 3rd grade, then we, okay, what bar are we using then? You know what I mean? So,
So statistically, Greg, if they ended at 80% and the bar rose, they could still have that same 80% comprehension with a 70% score.
Right.
And they do, you know, and yeah, their summer loss is real. I mean, it is real. It happens. So I don't know. I mean, I can't say. And the thing is, you know, we're dealing with such a small sample size when you're talking 35 to 50 kids. I mean, really, it's so small. I mean, so it's about looking at long-term trends, really, because one class,
Right.
you know, the difference between that 71 and that 85, that's 7 kids maybe, or 6 or 5 kids, you know, so it's a matter of looking at the long-term trends. I guess, if that makes sense. Other questions that you have?
That's fun data to look at.
Sometimes. I wish it was. Sometimes it's not fun to look at. Sometimes you look at it and go, oh, that's... But,
Well, Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Chris? All right, then we'll move on to our discussion or approval of Board Policy 171.
Okay. So if you see the next document in your packet, I put 2 policies in there. So it's Board Policy 171. The first one is just the current policy. The second page is what I would, I guess, propose based off of what you guys have been communicating to me. Not that I don't want it. Don't misinterpret this, but it'd be taking out on that first sentence, and the words and the word fourth. Ultimately, we'd be moving from 2 board meetings a month down to 1 board meeting a month. Called WASB attorney over there just for legal guidance as far as if we do this, does it have to be at an annual meeting? Can we just do it at this meeting? He said, yep, it can be done at any meeting, at any time. He said, common practice now is 1 meeting a month. He said the old school kind of thinking is the two meetings a month. Not that that's wrong, but I'm just, kind of letting you know what he shared with me. And then with the knowledge that we would have, if we needed 2 meetings a month, we could hold a special meeting. So if we do go down this, I would suggest that we do the second Monday of every month. So our first meeting, so that way if something comes up where there's, I don't know,
Something
tornado or inclement weather, something where we have to cancel, we still have 3 full weeks to fulfill the state requirement of having at least 1 meeting a month. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And then in busy times, busy months, we could still continue with 2 meetings a month. You guys would just have to vote on it on the meeting to have a special meeting the 4th Monday of the month.
Should we have that in the policies, like special meeting on the 4th, or it's just
If needed.
No, we don't need to, because we'll have a special meeting. We have a special meeting policy, and you can do that even if you don't have that policy. So really the only thing taken out, like I said, would be that first sentence. So instead of saying the school district Clear Lake Board of Education shall meet on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month, it would just say that shall meet on the 2nd Monday of each month. And then that 3rd paragraph, all meetings shall be held. I just fixed that because it currently states that we still meet in the boardroom. So I just put all meetings shall be held at the Clear Lake High School unless otherwise noted, voted on by the board. So I think that removes that Board of Education room off the table so we can have it in here. So just putting it out there for discussion because you guys just brought it up. As far as time away from family and just the talk of, can we get everything done in 1 meeting? And I know my kind of feelings is, one night, I'd rather be here 1 night a week for 3 hours than here 2 nights a week for 1 hour and a half, an hour and a half each night kind of thing. But it's your meeting, so I'm open.
I'm fine with it.
I think a lot of our meetings are half-hour, 45-minute range, and I rather, like he just said, let's just roll it out and do a 2-hour meeting and get it done. And if we need a special meeting, we need a special meeting. That's
3 or 4, and we don't have that 4th one anyhow. It seems with Memorial Day and Christmas and Thanksgiving. But
We'll have to take a look at the calendar. If we propose to do this, we'll take a look at the calendar and do a little bit more planning ahead as far as what business do we have to get done. Well, I'm sure you'll take care of that, Josh, but as far as the holidays, how they fit in, is that the first one that's canceled or the second one of the month that's generally canceled,
usually the second because it's Thanksgiving, Memorial, and Christmas.
Yeah. They're all the second.
Are always on the.
And we're always done by the 4th or the New Year's. I mean, the second Monday as well, usually past those.
But if this second one is canceled, we'll have to move it to the 4th.
Or if there's a special one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because you have to have 1 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The only concern that I would have about switching that, and maybe a lot of it comes from me being on the board as long as I have, is the fact that, before the kids were in school, I kind of used the meetings to keep myself informed. Are we going to miss part of that if we meet once a month? Maybe. maybe not. That's my only apprehension.
I think you have so much electronic communication now. Plus, if we really need to meet, it'd be almost better, for me, more beneficial to have a special meeting and talk about a certain topic and know that that's what we're going to delve into. When you look at our agenda, we can pretty much, I mean, this is a good example. We haven't met since the 14th. The agenda's pretty much the same. With the exception of the number of invoices.
Well, those could be bigger now if you're only going to do it once a month. Maybe not this big.
I don't know. I'm down with trying it, though. You know.
Yeah. The worst that could happen is you change back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would free us up to schedule some special meetings if we wanted to have. They'll come back in.
I move to approve.
I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded to approve the change in the board policy 171, eliminating, well, just so we have a meeting once a month. So should I read it?
Need to read it, but just to reflect the one meeting.
The changes. So yep, the changes will reflect the meeting once a month and in the high school rather than in the boardroom.
So then the annual meeting would be a special meeting, the fourth Monday.
Well, that is anyway.
Yeah, so that's 1 month where we'll have the fourth.
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will move on next to then the discussion of the DOJ 2018 Safety Initiative Grant.
Okay, it's the last year and a half or the year of the grants. So this is really just informing you guys. We applied for a safety grant. I don't know if I know we've talked about it a little bit, but there's a $1 million grant. It's called the School Safety Initiative Grant. It was due June 8th, so I just finished it up last week. And some of the things districts can apply for, every district can apply for the grant. There's two parts to the grant. It's $1 million for all of the districts in the state to share that money. So I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, but we applied. There's two parts to it. Like I said, there's primary funding and then advanced funding. And within the primary funding that we applied for, as part of the grant, you have to apply for what's called security film on only certain windows in each building. It can be part of that. So we had went around, measured all the windows. So we got all the measurements for this building and the elementary building. The security film, it's placed on the windows to prevent shattering if it's shot. And then the second part, we had a little bit more freedom as far as what we wanted to utilize that money for. So we are applying for, most of it is going towards security camera upgrades in both buildings. So we have, help me out, Mr. Osmond, a total of 31 cameras. So we're going to be looking to, we had a kind of a plan in place. Mr. Osmond and I were looking at kind of ordering like 3 to 5 cameras a year. And then this grant came up, so we decided to apply for all of the cameras, to upgrade all of them. If you notice in the, not yet actually, in the elementary we put up a TV in the main entrance with all of the cameras over there. And then there's going to be a TV in the high school office too with all the cameras for kind of better viewing. And then also in the high school office and my office. And then a couple other, some little things, some handheld radio purchases, some CPI training for seclusion and restraint that we talk about. That fell into that grant. That was all the money that was available at that time. So the intent of this agenda item is just to bring you kind of up to speed, just make you aware that we are applying for the grant if people ask. It's a lot of talk around the state as far as districts applying for it. It's a state grant through the Department of Justice. So we don't know if we've been accepted or not, but I'm hopeful that we will be. It sounds like it's
I see that page you're looking at? Or no?
this one.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yep. Be nice. If we do get it, our hope is that then we could reallocate some money to be used for this building to update the intercom system. Because right now, if there were to be in an unfortunate, even any type of event, and everyone was down in the gym, there's only one access to the intercom. It's in the main office. So realistically, it's not realistic for one individual to get all the way back down across the building to make an announcement if need be. So a lot of this emergency process, staff would be kind of operating in the dark, which is scary. So Mr. Osmond actually got some numbers on that today and was looking into how that would work if we could tap into our phone system within this building so it could be activated in multiple areas in the building. Any questions?
Do you guys use a mobile radio system at all?
Yeah, we do. We use mostly right now. It's used for with our transportation, our bus drivers, and communicating that way. There's some. Last year, or was it my first year, we had a student that was kind of a flight risk that we utilized it quite a bit. If he would exit the building, then the communication would go through the radios. But right now it's mostly kind of transportation and communication of who's getting on what bus and parents calling the building and then calling out to the bus drivers.
Okay, good stuff. Any other questions? Thanks, Josh. Then we'll move on to our superintendent notes.
Okay. A couple things. We have, since we've last met in mid-May, we had two individuals qualify for state. We had Josh Levera and Jasmine Christensen. They competed down in lacrosse for the state tournament and did a nice job down there. Didn't get on the podium, but it was a huge success just getting them down there. Baseball was also a good finish. They were co-conference champs, Mr. Rosen. Yep. And it was fun to watch them finish out the season. And then we had a ton of stuff kind of going on in the district at both buildings, but some of the things that we did, we had the track and field day, elementary track and field day here that we had good weather for. Obviously the high school had final exams. We had the elementary school picnic, which we saw most of you guys at. We had the kindergarten track and field day, which is always fun to watch. I had one of my own children in that, and did not take home the gold in the shoe kicking contest, but that was my hope, but didn't make it happen this year. But I have one more coming through, so there's always hope. Then we had the 6th grade graduation and awards. Then we had the last day of school, which is that early release, and everyone made it to the buses. And now it's kickoff to summer. Summer school started. Numbers are a little down, like we had communicated to you guys before, but Mr. Peterson led the in-service. Then we had our first day of summer school today, which sounded like it was a success. And kids made it to their classrooms, and we have a couple classes over here as well, so some high school offerings. I don't know if you want to add anything to the summer school, if I missed anything. But
good start. One thing that's new and exciting is we have swimming lessons going on in June instead of July this year. We're able to do that, and so that was a little different logistics today, keeping the kids who are going to swimming lessons and getting them on buses and all that. But Lisa Mulgo's done a great job organizing that, and our community ed director, and that went really well for the first
day. How many
day.
teachers they have down there? A dozen?
What's that?
So how many swimming lessons teachers do they have down there?
You must have quite a few, because there's 35, there's 70 kids are going, and then they go 2 sessions, so that so there's 30 to 35 kids in the pool at a time, so they must be pretty.
Got like 3 ropes with life.
So is there 2 buses, or how are they?
2 buses, yeah.
Okay.
One leaves today, one left, the next one left about 10 minutes later.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there's one session that goes for about a half an hour, and then the second session goes after that. That's what I'm told anyway. I wasn't there, but I mean, that's what I'm coming and going. But
We'll hear all about it later.
I just heard the bus was a little late on the way home. That's all I heard from my wife.
took them a little longer to get back. Yeah. Took a little longer to probably herd all those cats back.
Oh, yeah.
Wet cats.
Yeah, wet cats. Yeah.
And now we're into the summer, so the buildings are, both buildings are a little quieter, a little darker in places, but the summer school, we have some movement, and the custodial staff has started, getting everything ready for next year, so the cleaning process has begun.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, then we'll move on to our future agenda items section. Does anybody have anything that they think we might want to talk about on a future agenda?
I would like to get that vision done sooner than later.
Maybe setting up the special session.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Josh.
I was just gonna say I will have right now we're currently closing out this year's budget and then beginning to build next year's budget. So I'm going to be working with Baird in a week to be building the budget. I've been working with Ms. Karnick to close out this budget, which she does a fantastic job helping me out, and I've learned a lot from her. But with that said, I hopefully will have on the next board agenda just you guys had asked, I think, last year, just not a PowerPoint, but a Google Slides of our current budgeting process and kind of everything that's the lingo, that's the jargon within it, and then kind of timeline, and then also kind of some of the reports just to make you guys aware of that. The break already. Ask Mr. Larson about that return policy. So hopefully we'll have some type of presentation regarding our specific to our obviously the state, but more specific to the Clear Lake budgeting and the different funds that we utilize within our district and what's in those funds and what they mean.
How do we want to handle the vision discussion? Do we want to put that on the next meeting agenda, or do we want to? Any ideas?
I feel like it needs a special session.
You don't feel it, do you?
I do feel.
Depends on what our workload, I think, here is.
Yeah, I mean, it could.
Is this going to be a 2-hour agenda without anything in it? And if it's not, maybe start diving into it
After the meeting.
Budget.
I guess my question too, is the vision something that we want the board to solely develop? We talked a little bit about the retreat of bringing in, different stakeholder groups and not having it be, the Josh Ernst vision or, just the school board vision, but, and we could utilize some of the stuff that some of the information that we did during the retreat my first year with, some of the mission statement, and get some feedback that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Josh, because I think the administrative team has a big stake in it, as well as the teaching staff.
Yeah, I agree.
To get everybody to buy into a vision, I think having them be part of developing it would be wise.
So it almost needs to be a special session and then certain reps from each group.
Maybe going back to part of the board work you've done already. Some from doing our mission statement. Is there something from that work that you've already done that we can pull to be our vision statement? If I remember correctly, he said a vision is like a 3-year thing. That this is our focus. Is that what he said? Like it's a short-term
vision.
It's a 3-5 years maybe, he said, and then you got to be re-looking.
Yeah.
Is that still what we're going after? Have we met that so much that we need to set a new vision?
And if you remember the vision example that he gave,
Lofty.
Well, Tech was short. Remember the vision statement was we're the best rural school district in the state or something.
Yeah.
Or
He said we'll be better than
as long as we're better than Tech. So I mean, as an admin team, we could maybe look at kind of common themes that were, that emerged from all that work, if you guys would like.
So you guys just did a mission statement then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not that long. I think we should look kind of at that work and just see, is there something that could be a 3-year vision statement that we want to go for? I mean, even breaking it down, lifeline learners, do you want to focus on that aspect, or what does that mean? Or
But I think he talked about, I think that might have been part of the strategic plan.
right.
As far as like, right, a 3-year, 5-year kind of plan.
Yeah, usually your vision doesn't change.
I thought he said it does.
Your strategic plan does, and the vision of your strat plan.
I'm just not sure that we would, and you guys can, maybe I'm wrong, but, you know, the mission statement work is, I don't know how much we could actually pull out of that. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe we need to go back and look at his stuff,
Yeah.
or what he said, and
Okay.
Maybe go online and see how to develop a vision.
he did. He had that
Yeah.
presentation, that whiteboard. It was, I went on YouTube and saw it,
Yeah.
about writing a vision statement by the one lady. Remember, he recommended that one lady. I can go
Yeah,
back
well,
and
I
find
guess I
that.
actually watched part of it too. Yeah.
If you could send that, Eddie.
Yeah, I'll dig
That
back on my
Could you
stuff.
send that to me too, again?
Well, I think I'll send it out too.
Well, let's just keep it on the front of our minds, and it'll come to fruition. So for now, we just put it on the next agenda and talk
Keep it
about it
rolling.
again. Okay. All right, anything else you guys want to think about? Okay, so if you think of anything between now and then, you can also just call me or Josh, and we can add stuff as we go. Okay. All right, then, I thank you guys all for coming.
Thank you.
Don't come the last Monday, John.
We'll move on to our closed session portion of the meeting in accordance to WSS 19.85, paragraph 1C, considering employment compensation or performance data of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. F, concerning financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons. Concerning preliminary consideration of specific personnel problems. 2, the investigation of charges against specific persons. If discussed in public, would likely have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations. The board will be discussing end, completion of employment of a staff member, and B, retirement compensation of a staff member. I will poll the board. Nettie?
Yes.
Skip?
Yep.
Myself, yes. Brian?
Yeah.
Christie?
Yep.
We are in closed session. Okay, we're back in open session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I moved to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned.